my dad's house, so I'm going to be reviewing here today. We have a very, very anticipated movie to review, and that is The Hunger Games. I've actually, believe it or not, read The Hunger Games, the first book. I haven't read the whole series, and I don't plan to read 2 and 3. So it's very rare when I see a movie that's based on a book and I've actually read the book. I always find it like a weird experience, and I always say kind of get annoyed by those people that say, oh, the book was so much better than the movie, and I'm like, yeah, shut up. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's true. But going into this, I wasn't a huge fan of the first book. I thought it was okay. I only read it for English. And so going into the movie, I knew it was going to be this super hype thing, and I was like, well, I wonder if I'll like the movie better than the book. It's probably be true because I thought the book was okay. So going into it, I had mixed expectations. But if you haven't read the book, The Hunger Games takes place in this futuristic world where everyone lives in these different districts, and they're pretty poor, and this girl named Katniss, played by Jennifer Lawrence, they have this thing in each district where they go to this reaping, where they get picked for this big television event called the Hunger Games, where two kids from each district get put into these games, and they have to kill each other, and whoever's the victor gets like food and fame, and just gets to keep their lives. And Katniss's little sister Prim gets actually called to go into the games, and Katniss is not going to have her little sister go into the games after she promised that there was no way that she would get called. So she volunteers to go in place for her, and then this other kid named Peeta, played by Josh Hutcherson, gets picked as the boy from her district. And it's basically about how they try to survive and how their relationship grows. The strongest thing about The Hunger Games in this movie is by far the acting. I mean, the cast is huge and everyone is great. I mean, there's Jennifer Lawrence, who I've always liked since I saw her in X-Men First Class. Josh Hutcherson, who I actually surprisingly liked as Peeta. I usually hate that guy. There's something I just can't stand about him. I don't know, he just has like that kind of douchey aura around him. And Woody Harrelson plays Haymitch, the drunk mentor. I love Woody Harrelson. I wish he was in more movies, and I'm so glad he's in a huge series like this. He's great. Elizabeth Banks is almost unrecognizable as Effie Trinket. She's in a bunch of makeup, but she's really fun. Who else is it? Lenny Kravitz is in this as Senna, or Cena, I forgot his name. And I know there's one other person. Oh, Donald Sutherland plays President Snow, who's I thought he was kind of like a stock, not villain, but he was just kind of a stock character. But other than that, the cast is great, and everyone acts really well, especially Katniss. Jennifer Lawrence is great. She really carries the movies. There's one scene where she's about to go into the games, and she doesn't say anything, but the way she's like, her cheeks are shaking, was like, wow, she is a great actress. I also forgot to mention Stanley Tucci as Caesar Flickerman, one of the most awesome names ever. He's like one of the announcers of the Hunger Games, and he had so much charisma. He was always one of my favorite characters in the books, and I thought he was perfect as him in the movie. He was awesome. Something that people have been having problems with when they see the movie, especially if they've read the book, is that they don't really buy the relationship between Katniss and Peeta and how it develops. I actually thought it worked. I thought Josh Hutcherson and Jennifer Lawrence worked surprisingly well. I thought, obviously I hate to sound like this, but it was better in the book. It was more developed. But for a 2.5-hour movie, I thought they did fine. And I'm sure they'll probably progress as the next movies come, because I haven't read the book, so I don't know. But I thought they handled it pretty well, and it didn't slow anything down, surprisingly. It actually added to the movie. Once they finally get into the games, the things that people have been waiting for, it has a surprising amount of realism, and they build it up well enough to you're like, wow, the stakes are high, I care about these people. And the way I thought it was going to happen in the movie, I thought it kind of happened in my mind the way I thought it would, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and I thought that Gary Ross did a good job when it came to that part, but I'm going to talk about his directing later on. The movie does have a lot of problems for me, and I was pretty disappointed with it. Maybe not disappointed because I wasn't a big fan of the book, but to me, I enjoyed the book and the movie on the same level. I didn't think it was great. Its pacing is kind of slow. There's sometimes, like the first 30 minutes I was into it, and then once they got to the Capitol and like 20 minutes before the games, I thought it was kind of slow, and they weren't building it up as well as they did in the book. It took them a while to really start to, you know, build things up to the games. So there's like a 25-minute period where I'm like, okay, you know, character development, I know you're trying to go for here, but it's, you know, you gotta pick it up a little bit. And there's just times where you go from like something really exciting or something really interesting to like, you know, boring, you know, teenage angst. Again, I have to bring up the book, but I wish there was more emphasis on the Mockingjay. Like, you know, the Mockingjay is the thing that they have on the posters. It's the bird with the arrow going through it, and it's the circle, that little pin. I thought they could have emphasized that more because that plays a big part in the book, and there's a lot more backstory on it, and they kind of changed the backstory on it from what I remember from the book. And I felt that that would have been a better thing to explain. I thought it was better in the book. But it didn't bother me, but just subtle things like that I wish they could have put more emphasis on. But by far the thing that killed this movie for me was Gary Ross's shaky cam. My God, this is some of the worst shaky cam I have ever seen. During the games, whenever someone is getting attacked or they're running, it's literally like Gary Ross told the cinematographer to have an epileptic seizure or take a bunch of caffeine pills, because literally the camera, you can't tell what's happening. It's like he dropped it on the floor and put it in the movie. It's terrible. My friend said that was the worst part of the movie too, and it really kills some of the action scenes. And while it does help, you know, being in the woods, it kind of helps the realism of being in the woods and, you know, kind of being stalked. When it comes to action scenes, I want to, you know, I want to see what's happening. This is the most exciting part of the movie. And then sometimes you'll get like an aerial shot of them. There's like 1 or 2 shots of the aerial fights that were fine. They were just steady. But then when they would go back to the ground, it was like awful. Even during the movie when people are just talking, it's like the camera just can't stay still. Imagine me talking to you and the camera was like this all the time. And you're like, what does this add to the movie? There's no artistic integrity in this. This is just annoying, and, you know, I probably look like a spaz doing this right now. Personally, while the girl with the dragon tattoo was not as hyped as this movie, obviously, I mean, this movie, it was a line for 5 hours, even after I saw the movie, so girls are gonna love it, and it made a shit ton of money over the weekend. Just on Friday, it made $68 million. But the reason why I bring up Dragon Tattoo is because that was a very highly anticipated movie, not as much as this, and I thought that adaptation or that movie was way more satisfying than this. And I know that's gonna sound biased because I read this book and I didn't read the Dragon Tattoo book. But it's not biased because I wasn't a huge fan of this book, so I was looking forward to seeing the movie because I thought I would enjoy it more. But personally, I'm way more looking forward to the rest of the Dragon Tattoo series than I am to the Hunger Games series. But I am optimistic, and I think it's going to be an interesting experience seeing the last 2 because I haven't read those. Hunger Games was disappointing for me. I hope they pick, you know, I hope Gary Ross really lets up on that shaky cam. It's awful in the next 2 movies. Please stop. But on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm gonna give it a 3. I didn't hate it, and the thing that's most frustrating is that there's a great movie in here somewhere. There's points of the movie, especially during the games, that are like, wow, that was great. Do more of that. That was really poignant. That was really awesome. I'm surprised at how ballsy it was at PG-13 rating sometimes, but the shaky cam and the pacing were off for me, so I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. So that's my review of The Hunger Games. I know you guys saw it, or at least want to see it, so please leave your comments below. Tell me what your thoughts are on the box office, too, if you read how much it made. But like I said, please leave a comment on it. Please subscribe, rate, and comment for more rants, reviews, and Blu-ray updates, and see you guys later.
You are the wonder, you wanna know